Welcome, Pavel, for this conversation to introduce the HFSP annual report for 2020. You, as the new Secretary General, you've seen the report more or less done when you arrived. What was your first impression when you flicked through, or what stood out for you when you first saw what HFSP reports to its members in this annual report?
Well, to be frank, when I opened up this report, I felt proud. I felt very proud that I am now in the position to be able to be part of this organization, to lead it and to contribute to its enormous, interestingly important mission and the charter and the results. So I felt proud. I still feel proud about what is reported here, about our projects, about our fellows. And explicitly, I read with a great interest the science part of it, chapter 3, in which not only the excellent highlights are given of our frontier science done by our community, but also a very clear contribution we are actually making to some of the big issues, big tickets of the current times, specifically to the pandemic. So proud and even more committed than I was before to help to this fascinating program.
Yeah, while you were mentioning sort of the big issues like just as COVID, where do you see then the strength of HFSP as sort of a globally operating organization that supports frontier science from an organizational point of view?
I believe there are a number of extremely strong and unique points which we have as an organization, and I also believe that these points will be even more important in this century, which some of the great thinkers of this world call century of biology or century of life science. Right. And I think this is where we are. I truly believe that this is a very appropriate terminology. I think we are in the big search of the question, what is life? Do we understand life? Do we understand its complexity? And in that context, the life sciences we are representing are, of course, key to that. So I believe that this is one of the fundamental propositions. We, as a global organization, putting together best minds across the world, as far as we can find them, to look into the very fundamental questions about what is life, how is life functioning, living systems in this context. So meaning of that will be even more important very soon and in the coming century. So that's one. Second thing is, I believe that, by the way, we are settled, we are organized, we are able more and better than others to support what I would call a high risk, potential high gain. So the ideas which are popping up across the community of young and established thinkers, which are new, which were never tested before, which we put on table of a very rigorous review, but then fund it and support it and see how far they get. So this is yet another uniqueness of our existence, so to speak. Then I also believe that we are helping in the current divided world by promoting actively the Science Without Borders idea, real true collaboration. And I think that's collaboration as one of the ways to build bridges across divided world is actually now even more needed than ever before. So a couple of ideas which are in my kind of system at the moment, why we are so unique and so helpful. Of course, we want to be even more helpful than we were before, and that's why we are thinking about new strategy, about our program for the next 30 years, which most probably would embrace more members, become even more global, become even more inclusive. So this is on our agenda. And I think such a report like the annual report of last year is giving a good overview of the starting point from which we are developing this future agenda. So we are global, we are globally relevant, but I think we will be more relevant and more global even within the next couple of years when our new strategy will be approved and will be launched.
Yeah, that's great. Just going back to what you just said, sort of the question of what is life. From your background, as you know, with an initial training in mathematics and having done a lot of years and a lot of experience in ecosystem level research, where do you see the role of the life sciences in explaining life at this level. Where do you see life sciences operating in concert with other disciplines to explain system level mechanisms and function?
Right. So two different angles answering this question. One is, you know, to be frank, I am a mathematician trained by numbers, and from the numbers, which are very dry and very interesting, but still dry, there are not much living part of it. They are simply there and they need to be there, right? I moved in my career to sort of understanding of the system. So first hydrology, water cycle, of course you need mathematics to be able to build models, then the climate system, and most recently the earth system. So this is the way how I filled up my career over the last 35 years. And interestingly, anytime we touch upon a living part of our earth system, either biosphere, terrestrial biosphere, or the ocean biosphere, or the biosphere in the atmosphere, we were unable to go to the very basics of how the biology or life is operating in that context. So what did we do? We parameterized. We developed yet another mathematical techniques to go actually around it and to parameterize it. And later, of course, with the supercomputers, we were able to iterate by many calculation, number crunching. I think that because of that, we were never able to engage fully the knowledge which is sitting in the, for example, cell biology at the level of the functioning of the basics. So one of the things where I believe the big progress will come, at the moment we will be able, from the system perspective of the Earth system, which is of course life and bio part of it, engaged from the mechanistic understanding, physics and inorganic chemistry, for example, with the biology at a fundamental level. I think the major breakthrough will come. And I think this is important because we still have a big uncertainties in some of these Earth system models. And I think that one of my roles in the coming years would be to bring these communities together and to see if the existing uncertainties from the side of, for example, big transformational issues in climate or in food security could be helped actually by engaging with the fundamental biology and life sciences. So that's one. The other thing is, I am a true believer in trans and cross-disciplinarity. I believe that, you know, the true discoveries will come soon and in the future on the interfaces between disciplines. And these are feedback discoveries. So not only one-way feedback, but for example, chemistry and physics, physics and biology, biology and the cognitive science, behavioral science. And I think that in our of system thinking, if you like, on the future, I think our program should sort of actively support more and more transdisciplinary thinking to actually engage in the projects and in the communities which are not traditionally labeled as a biology or life science, but brings them together and try to build, you know, the system understanding where these interfaces, which are uncharted waters, would be investigated and would become better understood. So that's two angles to this question. I think both of them extremely important. And I think that my colleagues, my co-colleagues across the world, building mechanistic models and basically using the highest level technology to crunch the numbers to iterate until we have a result, we'll listen to it, because we are all hungry in sort of engaging with the true process level biology understanding to answer these questions.
What you just explained in terms of these uncharted waters very much has sort of frontier all over it. Which is what HFSP would like to support in its grant and fellowship programs. How would you define then the frontier? If you take the whole picture of a system, you know, where do you still see gaps or frontiers that need to be explored?
You know, of course, the terminology of the frontiers, I'm being asked this question quite often. What do you mean by frontiers, right? Yeah. So I'm sort of giving a simple answer. I say the frontier basically is the edge, is the end of something. So when you cross the frontier, you are in the other domain, either in the other country or other discipline. Right. So I think this is the one way to think about the frontiers. We sort of try to be sort of walking always at the highest level, so to speak, or furthest level of the edges of understanding. Of course, it is difficult because, I mean, what used to be frontiers 5 or 10 years ago could have become, and very often became, a mainstream of the research. I mean, examples are many. Synthetic biology, for example, to name one of the many. But there are many more which became quickly, part of the mainstream research. So one of the things which we will be doing, and this is not for me to judge, of course, we will be putting together very soon a group of thinkers across all disciplines we could find, and we will find relevant for the life science, to actually put together a position view, if you like, about what are the frontiers in the life sciences in 2021. And this will be interesting discussion on this one. So we will prepare as a group of experts across the world from our community such a position. And then, of course, we would sort of think about future. And the future, of course, we could only make scenarios, because you never know which discovery will be done tomorrow or after tomorrow. But where I believe the frontiers in the future, some of the frontiers are, for example, issues of how much the artificial intelligence and big data would sort of encroach on our fundamental sciences in the field of biology or life sciences. We see already a huge progress. I am both happy and a little bit worried about that, because I believe that the AI, is just, as a mathematician, is a just smart way of training algorithms with a lot of data, which is not always necessary helping the fundamental understanding. But at the same time, there are huge opportunities, and I think this is one of the frontiers we need to address. What is the most beneficial marriage of those two components of the fundamental understanding, experiments, and the AI? That's one of the things. The other is behavior and the human being as such. I mean, we are only scratching the surface of discussion about what is driving behavior of us as a human beings, as a living part of the Earth system. So is the cognitive scientists, psychology may be connected to the fundamental biology, but also behavioral economics to go to this thing, what is driving the decisions which are being taken every day on behalf of us and by our representatives. So these are some of the ventures I would like to explore. And I think the other frontier is not very much in the sense of which science field, but in the thinking. I think we as an academic enterprise, and I've been professor for the last 30 years, so it's also, plea to myself. I think we have driven ourselves into partially locked-in situation, not in the connection of the pandemic's lock-in, but in the system we have developed. We have developed a very linear system where the innovations are coming usually at the end of the cycle, or based on a scientific paper which we published and basically leave it out there. I think what I would like to discuss in the frontier setting is, can we shortcut this? Can we bring the fundamental science, fundamental discoveries much more faster into the big issues of the current society? Right. So shortening the innovation cycle is also a frontier debate. Of course, that means a lot in the consequences for academic enterprise, how we fund the research, what kind of stimuli we have. So I think that's also part of the frontier conversation which we have to have in the future.
That's interesting, and definitely, how to put it, an enticing prospect, and lots of topics to discuss for future exchanges in the HFSP context and abroad and beyond. So for this time, thank you very much, Pavel. Look forward to continue these conversations. Thank you.
Great pleasure, and great reading of our annual report to all community. Thank you.
Thank you.